Would you ask someone who doesn't watch sports for gambling tips on tonight's big game? Would you ask a virgin what's the best feeling sexual position? So, why do so many people ask for relationship advice from others who are chronically single? I mean, does that make any sense to you? Well, tonight I have some people on who have had some success in the dating game, and they will give advice based on the trials and tribulations they've made it through. So, T2Q episode number 934 will start right now. All right.
T2Q Radio.
Hey, what up, Q? What up, Radio World?
And this is my show, the Talk to Q Radio Show. Caller, go ahead.
Hey, Q, how are you?
What up, what up?
Let me thank you for having me on your show. It's so awesome to be here with you and all your listeners.
Bad man posted some of the chat room that almost made me choke over here. My man Ray out there in New Jersey. Ray, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Nah, I ain't telling you don't screw. Screwing's cool.
Some women are down for it. I said some, not all.
This is a show that people are supposed to get their opinion and tell what they think.
And I think it's offensive to say that a person who speaks well is trying to speak white.
Well, I am pro-woman, but I'm not anti-man. I know the value of a good man.
Is that it?
I'm sorry. Sometimes you got to nod your head. What's going on, people? I want to welcome all of you to another live edition of the Talk to Q Radio Show. My name is Quincy, and this is my show. And there are so many do's and don'ts when it comes to successful dating. So I've decided to bring on some people who have dated successfully and worked through all of the trials and tribulations that comes along with it to try to get some insight on what has worked for them. So let me go to the T2Q virtual phone lines. And the first place I will go will be to the Great North, Ottawa, Canada, to welcome back Suzie to the Talk to Q Radio Show. Suzie, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I am outstanding.
Good to hear.
So glad to have you on. All right, so let me go to the South. This guy has called in the show like way back in the day, but this is his first appearance, I think, as a guest, definitely his first video appearance on the show. Let me welcome my man Dre down there in Tampa, Florida. Dre, what's happening, man?
What's good, buddy? Thank you, man. This is my first time on a panel, so on the show. So yeah, it's a privilege, man. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks for joining. Okay, so my next guest is from my home state. Well, she's not from, but she lives in my home state of Mississippi. And so let me stay in the South and welcome back Dr. Tiffany Anderson to the Talk to Q Radio Show. Dr. Tiffany, how are you?
Hey, how are you? Thank you for having me. I'm wonderful.
All right. Now let me get this straight. Were you born in Cali and moved here, or did you?
I was born in Mississippi. However, I left when I was 2, so that don't count.
Okay.
So I left. I moved to California, and I didn't come back until I was like 16 or 17. So all of my developmental years I spent in Long Beach, California. So I'm a Cali girl at heart, but I've been in Mississippi so long, I may as well say I'm a Southern girl too now. So
okay, all right, well, cool. Well, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
All right, and my last guest is a show legend, and you know, for my show legends, they have a special introduction because they are special people. So let me welcome on this next guest. From the Silicon Valley area in the Golden State of California, please welcome on show legend Marrie Lobel to the Talk to Q Radio Show. Marrie, what's going on?
Oh my God, I'm blushing. You made me blush. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Marrie.
Marrie, how are you doing?
I'm fabulous. How are you doing, Q?
I am outstanding. So glad to have you on. Thank you for being here.
Honored to be back.
All right. Now, before we actually get started, Dr. Tiffany, if I'm not mistaken, you have something that you would like to do. Now, for those who maybe aren't familiar with her, she was on the show back in December. She released a book in January called Lessons in the Valley. All right. Overcoming the cycle of relationship woundedness.
Yes.
And tell the people what you're going to do for them, Dr. Tiffany.
Yes, absolutely. So what I'm doing tonight is I am giving away 5 autographed copies of my book. And Q, I see a copy of my book back there on your shelf. I like it. I love it. I love it. I love it. But I'm giving away 5 free copies, autographed copies of my book, Lessons in the Valley, Overcoming the Cycle of Relationship Woundedness. And what I am doing is, for those of you who comment throughout our discussion and our conversation tonight, I will enter your name in a drawing, and I will pull your name. I'll pull 5 names, and we'll let you know who those names are at the end of the show. What I ask that you do is, once we notify you what the names are, inbox me at Dr. Tiffany Anderson on my Facebook page with your mailing address, and I will mail you a copy of your book directly to your address.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
All right.
Okay. All right, commenters. So get to it. Your chance to enter and win a copy of the book. See, my man Brad is jumping in from Jacksonville, Florida.
Come on in here, Brad.
All right. The bad man in Arkansas. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, I want to wish an early happy Mother's Day to all of the ladies. With Mother's Day coming around, I want to give you all a shout. Hardest job on the planet. And so I'm gonna start off with a tough question first. Now, ladies, this question, so many women in the world probably want the answer to this. And Dr. Tiffany, I'll ask you. Some women get caught up waiting on a particular type of guy to just waltz into their lives while ignoring men who may be best for them. What important qualities should a woman look for in a man, Dr. T?
Okay. Let me start and say this first. And this is something, when I speak, please know that I'm not just talking book sense. Again, when I wrote Lessons in the Valley is a story, a very personal story of how I learned the hard way. And I'm still learning. So again, this is not a one hit or quitter. You're continuing to learn in this relationship arena. But the very first relationship that you are going to have to establish is going to set the tone for every other relationship is the relationship that you have with yourself. So if you don't have good boundaries, and if your workable issues, if your deal breaker issues can easily become workable issues, then you have a problem already. But one thing that I can definitely say, that if I could give advice to my younger self about what I would look for in a relationship, first of all, I want to know, how do you argue? How do you argue? When conversations and problems come up, do you shut down? Do you do the silent treatment? Do you like drama, or do you like to come together? You like to come to the table? Do you like to resolve issues? So I do want to know how you argue. Now, I may be getting a little clinical here, but I also want to know, what is your attachment style? And what I mean by attachment style, I mean, are you conflict avoidant? Are you that person that's like, look, I don't have time for that old being attuned to your old emotions and all of that kind of stuff? Or are you that person that's able to say, look, I may not know how you feel, but I want to understand? And that's what I mean when I say it's really, you see how Keith said, I just walk away. I'll put your name down, Keith. I'll put your name down, Keith. But that's what I mean when I say you have to know where your values lie and what you need and what's important to you when you pick. You can't pick based on what Dr. Tiffany likes, or what Keith likes, or what Q likes. You have to really be in tune and in touch with what your values are and where your boundaries are. But definitely, how do you argue? How do you resolve conflict? Do you know how to resolve conflict? It's going to be an important aspect for me.
Okay. Yes, conflict resolution is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Suzie, what do you think? What do you think are some of the qualities women should look for in a man?
Well, I think we get so caught up in our wants that we forget what we need. And one thing I always caution people is to not get caught up in looks and things like that, and choose someone based on their values and shared values, that you both are on the same path as each other, rather than, I like bald men or I don't, or I like redheads or I don't, or those sorts of things. In coaching, I found a lot of people focus so much on the want to have rather than focus on what they really need as a person. So when searching for love, it's important that you kind of put those things aside and look at your shared values, and because those are the things that hold up throughout a relationship. Rather, the rest of the stuff is pretty packaging, but what's really important is your values. So I think that, like, family values, how you spend your money, how you treat other people, how you treat each other, as Dr. Tiffany said, how you argue, how you resolve your conflicts together, and with other people, those sorts of things are really important. How you would raise kids. I've seen a lot of relationships break up because they can't agree on how to raise their children. So all these things are really important, and we get caught up in the feelings and we forget about the really important concrete stuff that make a relationship work.
Okay. And Marrie, I don't know if they left you anything to add, but
Oh, really?
have at it.
I really appreciate what Dr. Tiffany said in terms of like conflict resolution and working together. And you can't be in a relationship if you can't solve problems together. There's no long-term relationship where you're not solving problems, because life happens and there's going to be bumps in the road. So I really appreciate Dr. Tiffany's comment and her opener in terms of your first love and your first relationship has to be with yourself. And that is like a golden nugget that a lot of people need to hear, because before we can talk about all this other stuff, you really have to do some self-evaluation and really look at yourself, self-analysis, and learn who you really are. How are you going to figure out what works with you if you don't even know who you are as a person? But yeah, and Suzie just pretty much checked every other box that I was going to comment, which is absolutely true. Just in terms of, don't get caught up in like, this cookie cutter, this box of what you think you're attracted to and what you think you need to have, because you never know. I mean, granted, of course, there's some fundamentals. So if, you are of a particular religion and your religious life is extremely important to you, and that your faith-based activities are extremely important to you, an atheist probably isn't going to be the best match. Do you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like understanding those sorts of things about that goes back to what Tiffany said, understanding who and what you are. And then to what Suzie said, which is in terms of, be careful not to like pigeonhole yourself and pigeonhole other people into this box and say, that's what I want to marry. Because, there's so many other foundational issues to worry about.
Yeah.
Okay. And Dre, I'm gonna get to you in a second for a man's perspective, but I want to go back to Dr. Tiffany for a second to ask you this. Mm-hmm. Some guys are just nice. That's it. They're nice guys. Is that enough?
No, absolutely not. And then, I think that being nice is one thing, but you have to ask yourself, why is that all? Why is that enough? And what does nice look like? What does nice look like? Why is it that a person being nice to you is all that? And if that's all, if that's the only value that you have, then okay. If that's all I need is I just need someone to be nice to me, then what that tells me is that that's what I've been missing. That's what that person has been missing. And I just need someone to be nice to me. And what that means is that you can not work. You can sponge off of me. You can, I don't know what being nice means. That's going to be have to define being nice. But for me, just being the nice guy is absolutely not enough. My values for me personally run a whole lot deeper than that. I think, though, that when we don't know what those values are, we can't make decisions from those value bases. So it's like we're just out here making decisions out of nowhere. Now you can be nice, and if you get, like Keith is saying, you can be the nice guy and then you get ran over. Well, what that tells me is that you're choosing someone who is not compatible with your niceness. It's something else going on here. It's not just, well, I'm nice and I'm going to get ran over. What that tells me is that there's a lack of boundaries here. You can be nice and still have some boundaries. When you don't have good boundaries is what gets you ran over, not being nice. So I can be nice and still say, this is not what I'm going to accept. This is the invisible line that I'm going to teach you how to treat me. And if you cross this line, I'm not going to draw my line in the sand and then you cross it. And then I draw another line and let you cross it again. There comes a point where I get to say no, and I can still be nice. Yeah. So, but to answer your question, is being nice enough? No, I can be friends with you, but just to be dating you and prepare a long-term relationship with you just because you're nice, absolutely not.
Okay. You know, someone once said that no is a complete sentence.
It is, period.
So there is nothing wrong with that at all. But Dre, let me get a guy's perspective on this. Let me get you in the mix, since you're kind of in the middle. You're like the meat in a woman's sandwich.
But no, seriously, just to piggyback from what Dr. Tiffany was saying, it reminds me of those commercials for medication. It's like, try nice. Side effects include stuff like that. But he's nice though. I like that. I mean, for me, just probably because I've done my own valley, Dr. Tiffany. So I'm on my second marriage.
Yeah.
So the first marriage obviously didn't work out. And I think when you brought up being nice, you're definitely right. Nice is not always, that's not it.
Yeah.
It's good, but you need more additives and preservatives to go with the nice.
Right.
So, but as far as like what was the question again? I mean,
it's nice enough. Because you said it's nice enough.
Well, nice is not enough, because if you're in this for the long haul, if you're in this for long-term relationship / marriage, I can be nice, but how am I at conflict resolution? I can be nice, but how's my temper? I can be nice, but am I a narcissist? I can be nice, am I a sociopath? So Ted Bundy was nice.
Yes, absolutely. And he was an absolute sociopath. He was a narcissist.
Right. So yeah, it's not enough. I mean, I would venture to say anybody who's looking to get into a long-term relationship, please know that nice is one thing, but it's important to be nice, but it's also good to have some other qualities to go with that.
Yeah. You need more to your sandwich. Like he used you as a human sandwich.
Right.
You want more on your sandwich than just meat and bread, right? You want a little mayonnaise, a little mustard, maybe a pickle. You want a little more than that. So nice.
Who's on?
And I'll use a personal experience when I talk about in Lessons in the Valley. I did that where somebody was nice to me. It's like, oh my God, he's so nice to me. Oh yes, let's be together. And then you find out that this person is a complete narcissist when you use, and I understand that the term narcissist is being thrown around all over social media and all in it's being thrown around like everywhere. But I really believe that there are people out here, and narcissism is on a spectrum. So you can have narcissistic traits and not have the full diagnosis. But when you do things like when you just jump into relationships because somebody's nice to you, you miss all the red flags. And then later on, you're sitting here like, but wait a minute. He was so nice in the beginning. In the beginning, during the love bombing phase and the idealization phase, they're so kind and sweet. But when that mask starts to fall, you realize it wasn't real. So that's why it's really important to not just go on niceness. Because when niceness goes away, then what do you have left?
Exactly.
So many people need to hear this. All right. So let me go back to you for a moment, Suzie. And are a lot of people stuck on being single because they simply have a type? I mean, they're waiting on this particular person to, the 6 foot tall, whatever they're looking for to walk into their world.
100%. A lot of the single women and men that I meet and that I've worked with all get stuck in this dream that they want a certain type of person and that they deserve this person and that they're a catch and they need they only deserve that this type of person, like the successful businessman, they have this sense of entitlement that they deserve all these wonderful things, that they want, this superstar guy or girl, arm candy or whatever, and that they won't settle for less. They deserve that. They really deserve it. And in the meantime, they don't see anything else that's around them. And I mean, I can speak to a few women that I've even set them up with some really great guys, and they just can't get past that. These guys are not the charismatic, even though they're successful, they're not this charismatic A-type guy that they imagine themselves with. And of course, you have to be attracted to the person, you have to be able to get along, but they get stuck in this ideal that is unrealistic for most people, especially. I mean, here where I live, it's a government town. So you don't really find as many charismatic business types here, uber successful. And they're successful, but they're, pencil pushers kind of thing. So it's a different personality. But the girls are looking for that kind of guy. So there's a lot of girls who are perpetually single because they're not finding what they're looking for. But I mean, they're letting all these great people pass them by. And a lot of guys too, guys in there who want to marry someone who's like young, a lot younger than them. And they don't, even though they're in their 40s, they don't look at women in their 40s because like, well, I want to get married and have kids. So they look at like 35 under, even in their 20s, and bypass women who are older, even though they're more compatible. And I see a lot of these guys who end up cheating on their spouse because they don't have as much in common, and they just see them as having this task, and they're not a true partner. And I think that's the disconnect here. You need to find a true partner in life. And this partner you should have a lot in common with, and you both, and going back to that, knowing who you are and being confident in who you are, single isn't a bad word. And a lot of people think it is. So I think when you're happy, and you should be whole on your own and not look for your other half, that cliche, you need someone else who's whole as well. And both of you will walk together as two whole people. And that's what a healthy relationship is, in my opinion.
All right. I like that. And I like some of the things you said about men as well. And I want Dre, as a man, to kind of give his 2 cents. And, Dre, I like women who are under 5'4", dark skin, full lips. But none of the women I dated back in the day who matched that description worked out. Okay. I mean, it's just what it is. Right. Do guys have the same problem? Do we sometimes fall for a type?
We do. I mean, we fall for, you either looking for Cardi B or you looking for, Jasmine Guy or something like that, So we all, in essence, we all have a type. And it's kind of funny because I was talking to my coworker today, and she just bought a Volvo like a month ago. But she was telling me today that she was not getting as much gas mileage as it was when she was driving her Honda. Because Honda's real good on gas mileage. So it's like, her type was the Honda, but then things started acting differently when she got the Volvo. She still loves the car, but it was different. So I mean, I say that when sometimes you actually have to go outside of I hate the cliche, comfort zone to get that person that you're looking for. Mm-hmm. I mean, my wife, which we like today, for example, we're celebrating 6 years together, but our 5th wedding anniversary is in October. So thank you. But, I mean, we weren't looking for each other because, I mean, if we just weren't on each other's radar until we just happened to meet through a mutual friend and we just interacted. Now, it just so happened that I'm so thankful that we interact so well that, you know, we start talking on the phone because she's from Chicago originally, I'm from Tampa. So we had to be able to communicate. So the type was not really in my face per se.
Mm-hmm.
So you literally I had to get to know her as a person, as a woman, what I was looking for. And it just so happens that everything that I was looking for was right there. You know, I mean, I am not tall. So, you know, I'm not dating, you know, volleyball players, nothing like that. Right. But it was just right. It was the right place at the right time. But yeah, we do have a type, but sometimes a type is not. That goes back to what Dr. Tiffany is saying. The type isn't always right.
Right.
You know, side effects include, you know, so, you know, I mean, it's just crazy. So that we have to get past looking for a type of person, but looking at the person as a whole.
I totally understand, man. And I feel you on the height thing too, man. I'm only 5'6", you know, but like I said on the Crystal Show a few years ago, don't let the tape measure fool you. I'm still that dude.
I love that. I have used that on several occasions. Not let the tape measure fool you. I'm still that dude, you know. I'm
still that dude. Gotta be. All right, so emotional stability. We all think that we're fine, you know, getting past trauma of previous relationships, but we're not always in the right headspace when we jump into something new. It's kind of like someone who drinks at the bar, they get a little tipsy and they think they can drive until they run into a ditch. So, Dr. Tiffany, your book, Lessons in the Valley, Overcoming the Cycle of Relationship Woundedness, has a very important title. Yeah. The key phrase being the cycle of relationship woundedness. Mm-hmm. So how important is making sure that you've learned the lessons from the past and that you're emotionally ready to entertain the possibility of a new relationship?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important things that has to happen. You know, if you don't learn the lesson in one relationship, you're going to learn it in another relationship. People think that because you get married, that's going to solve whatever issues you got going on. Actually, it's going to highlight them and it's going to magnify them even more. What I think about wounds, unhealed wounds as access points. So think about these access points that we have in us and think about like these different people who we're interacting with. It's kind of like dirt, and maybe the wrong ones are kind of like dirt. So it's kind of like we attract these other individuals who are going to re-injure us if we don't heal what got us in these other relationships in the first place. So I really believe that until we're able to identify where the wounds are, and I'm a transparent person. My wounds were attachment related. So when it came to my attachment to my partners, my dependence on my partners, I had to learn to not have a dependence on them or on the relationship to such a degree that if they walked off and the relationship fell apart, that I didn't fall apart too. And I think that happens a lot because we get so attached that it's like, this has to work out. And that's not true. And so instead of looking at like, well, why did they leave? They left. What happened? I had to go back. And that was part of me writing that book. I had to go back and figure out, okay, this keeps happening. It's a different person, but it's the same situation. It's a different person, a different body, but it's the same situation. And what I discovered was that my wound was an attachment wound. And so you get to decide when you are able to locate your wound, you get to say, okay, hey, what role do I want this wound to play in my life? Do I want to heal it? Do I want to stuff it? Do I want to give it to somebody else and say, hey, you heal it? Or do I want to say, you know what, let me go ahead and clean this up. Let me understand that with every relationship, there's going to be risks, But if somebody leaves, they have a right to leave. I don't have to fall apart because they leave. So, I really, to answer your question, I really believe that everybody needs to do their own work. I think that it's important to have someone who can assist you and support you as you go on in your journey. But ultimately, the work is ours to do. The work is ours to heal those wounds and to make sure that we're not bringing unhealed stuff and putting it on our partner's lap and say, hey, I got trauma I got mama wounds and I got daddy wounds. I need you to fix it. Because then we push our partners away like that and it's never going to work.
All right. And so, Marrie, let me ask you this. Let's say that you do the work, you learn the lessons and you're in a good space to start meeting people. Let's talk about getting on the same page with someone new. A lot of people are tired of wasting their time. They get tired of putting effort into someone who ultimately lets them down and puts them back at square one. But is that because they're not asking the right questions up front? I mean, do some people make the mistake of committing to a new relationship when they don't even know what the other person wants?
Oh, absolutely. I think people go into relationships not even knowing what they want. So I believe that a lot of people go in kind of with these blinders on and they see what they want to see both in themselves and in the person that they're dating. And there may be signs, and most of the time there are signs of how they're going to deal with a certain conflict, of how they're going to deal in a certain stressful situation. And you just don't see them because, as Suzie said earlier, you have these rose-colored glasses on. And you go back to what Dr. Tiffany was saying in terms of you're just, he's such a nice guy though. This was just one time, and Suzie's glasses are, but he's so hot, he's a nice guy and he's hot. Of course, there's going to be this like, oh, that was that one time where he, totally yelled at the host or the waitress for bringing the wrong fork. And it's kind of like, that's a red flag. Mm-hmm. It's not even just that a person's the nice guy and nice to you. How do they treat other people is a huge one. Yeah. It's like they could treat you like a princess on a pillar and then go out and treat everybody else like gum on their shoe. And eventually you're going to be the gum on their shoe. Yep. Because they're going to be so used to chewing on you that the flavor is going to be all gone. And there you have it. So I do, it all goes back, it all ties together in terms of like, sometimes you like to fool yourself that you don't really know how they're going to react in a situation, but there are signs. And it's just revealing those to yourself. It's not that they're not revealing it to you. It's just that you're not willing to see it.
Okay. All right, so Brad chimes in. He says, I'm an empath, so I want to run when I'm in those situations.
Oh, wow. Yeah, empaths have to be really careful now because empaths attract toxic people. It's like that's just kind of what, and they don't have good boundaries. So empaths have to really be careful.
Totally.
About that. And just to piggyback on what Marrie said, there are signs, there are red flags. If I got mashed potatoes on my plate, but I want broccoli. Sometimes I'll say, well, I can make these I can make this broccoli. I can make this. And good and well, you can't make this no broccoli. So we just kind of see what we want to see. And we say, well, it was just one time. But then what happens is that you remember the nice guy is nice enough. So remember the nice guy, he was so nice. But then that one time that he called you out your name, or that one time that he put his hands on you, you want so bad to get back to that nice guy again that you're willing to stay in that till you can get that back. And then any resemblance of that getting back again is going to put you back in the cycle of being called out your name again. And so just to kind of add on to what she said, dating, look for red flags. Don't try to love the red flags out of people. Don't do that. Don't try to love the red flags out. When you see red flags, take the red flags for what they are and do what you got to do and leave. That's it.
That's funny because my wife and I are looking at Married at First Sight.
Uh,
So, yeah, it's therapy for us, man. Because I love you so much. It's funny because he got these total strangers, and this is no disrespect to Dr. Tiffany and what people in her profession do, but I still don't understand how they can match two people up that don't know each other.
I don't understand that either.
So and you were talking about how the red flags that you don't see, and Marrie was talking about how, the guys, how does he treat somebody else and this and that. We had this one couple that's on there, like one of the next mornings on her honeymoon, I guess the wife, her name was Taylor, I think it was, but she's, on social media and she's got the camera phone and everything. And then, and the guy sleeping next to her husband, and everything. He immediately got up and walked out of walked into the bathroom or something. But apparently he doesn't like being filmed when he's sleeping or whatever. So, but at the same time, he had blown up with her. He had blown up on her like 3 times. This is on the honeymoon. Wow. So, yeah. So, and then they get back to DC, where everybody's from, and they have another argument again. And then, it's just crazy. I'm like, you see red flags. I missed red flags in my first marriage.
Did you miss them or did you ignore them? We got to tell the truth now. Did you miss the red flags or did you ignore them?
No, I ignored them because they were like the flag of the People's Republic of China, just waving in the but I ignored them, and she probably ignored my red flags too. So I'm just going, it's got to be both. It can't be just one side. It was both sides. So I'm sure she ignored my flags too. But that being said, because I got to know my current wife, my now wife, my wife, we had a chance to communicate. So that's the big thing as far as like being a communicator. I'm not the best communicator, but I had to learn to become one in order to be able to be in a marriage with my wife now.
Right.
Because before, I'm the guy that would bottle stuff up. Yo, sure, whatever, no problem. Sorry, my bad. And then like internalize everything like I'm a Vulcan or something, and then just unleash, and just passive aggressive this and all. It was a mess.
Yeah. But what's so good though is that you're willing to acknowledge that. And that's the other thing about dating. If you meet someone who cannot acknowledge their role in something, it's another red flag for me. If every single thing was him, he, her, she, and it's like, well, I was perfect, I was absolutely excellent, I was the best, this and that, then that would be another red flag for me. So with Dre, I really applaud you and appreciate the fact that you're able to say that you use passive aggressiveness and silent treatment, and you recognize that was toxic and you didn't want to do that anymore because you wanted to maintain your marriage.
It took me 5 whole years to get over that.
Wow.
Because I literally had to kind of like not like seriously date for like 5 years to me.
Yeah.
It took me that long because I wanted to make sure if I did, because I believe in marriage, I love marriage, but I didn't want to jump into another type of the same thing.
Yeah. You need to reprogram yourself.
Right. I mean, I had to have my boys, I got 2 sons, I'm trying to be example for them. I'm trying to work and trying to, make money and stuff like that. So I had a lot going on. I was in school and everything. So I had to deprogram, whatever you want to call it, in order to be able to reset myself. So when I presented myself to my wife by sliding in her DMs, I was able to, it was like, oh, hey, so it was
great. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And man, this is great stuff. It really is. I have a couple more questions. Now, there are plenty of do's and don'ts when it comes to the recipe for successful dating. First thing where I want to discuss is making your dating life public. Some people do too little while others do a little too much. I want to start with the ones that do too much. And Suzie, I will go with you. Is it a good idea to share every single problem about your relationship on social media or to whomever will listen?
No, I think, especially when you're in a relationship, you should be discussing with you and your partner. That's the only two people. If you need help, I mean, we all have a trusted person that we go to. Mary's heard a lot of my problems, but I was dating. But you know, it's important not to go out and, you know, talk about every single thing that happens to you. It's nobody's business but you and that person. And too many people do talk too much. And I mean, there was a big trend. I mean, when I was single, you know, blogging about your dating experiences, and that's how I got started. And I would never talk about personal things. I would never share names or anything. But I think it's important that some things remain private. And I think the more you move along in your dating life and the more mature a dater you are, the less those things are important. You don't want to share anymore. You just want to be with that person. And I can speak for myself. I mean, until I met my husband, I had a very toxic dating life, and I would go after the wrong people. I was emotionally unavailable after my first marriage, my divorce, and until I realized that, then I started having a healthier dating life. But a lot of people will go out and say, you know, I have bad luck in dating, or, you know, I'm unlucky in love. And it goes back to the choices you make. And often we choose those bad people in order to have that story to tell others and to have that experience. And it's important to realize that in yourself and know, why am I telling this story? Am I doing it to get attention? Am I making the wrong choices intentionally in order to have these stories? Because when you have a healthy relationship, you don't want to talk about it. Like if you notice on Facebook, people who have healthy relationships, you rarely see anything about them. They don't talk. They don't need to say, I'm so in love, or I so hate this person, or whatever. They just be. They're just together and they just function in a healthy way. But if you need that attention all the time, then you have to question yourself. And again, it comes back to where we started. Look internal, look inside yourself and see where you're at. And if you're feeling in a confident, happy place, then you don't need that validation from other people. You just need to have a healthy relationship, and with yourself and with other people.
All right. It sounds great. Yeah. And so, Marrie, what about people who seek advice on their relationship with others who are perpetually single? I mean, do we seek out these people because we're just not thinking, or deep down inside, maybe we want them to tell us what we want to hear?
Oh, it's absolutely. We want them to tell us what we want to hear, because they're obviously going through the same thing if they're perpetually single. And then they're the ones who are usually posting on Facebook all the time. Oh, I went out to this 4-star restaurant, and they're like posting pictures, and they've got their and their little smiley emoji and the heart. And then you never see a picture of that person again. So it was a lot. And Suzie and I were in that field for a long time, along with you, Q, and just seeing that from these people who call themselves experts. And Suzie and I, we were experienced, not experts. How's that?
Sounds great.
So, I'm not like Dr. Tiffany. I did not go to school. I went to the School of Hard Knocks, I like to say.
I went there too. Look, I went there too.
I know. I believe you did.
I went there too.
I believe
a couple
you did.
times. I graduated a couple times.
I think in order to be on Q's show, he's aware that all of us have graduated. there a few times. I think that's a huge part of the whole thing is that you seek that outside validation rather than just you want somebody else to make you feel like everything you're doing is okay. And if somebody else is making those same mistakes, they're going to tell you, of course you're great, girl. Go get it, girl. They're the selfish men are the problem, those kinds of things. So, we saw it a lot, didn't we, Suze?
Yes, we did.
But let me play devil's advocate real quick with what. Let me just play devil's advocate. Let me just throw that in here real quick. So what if the perpetually single people? What if they've learned some lessons in their perpetual singleness? What if these are people who are healthy-minded single people who are like, yep, I messed up again, but here's what I learned this time. Here's what I can tell you this time. So I don't know. Do you guys feel like that is it automatically a bad grade because they're perpetually single, or is there something to be learned from people who find themselves in a situation where they're single again? Can we learn something?
But there's people. There's also people who are just single by choice. They like to date. They have no interest in a long-term relationship. That's great. That's awesome. It goes back to what we were all talking about earlier. It's that foundation in knowing thyself. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to jump into a relationship to make somebody else feel good about who and what they are to somebody else, right? They can look at themselves in the mirror and be like, I'm awesome. I'm okay with being single. I don't need a man or a woman to validate me. And that's fine. So back to that devil's advocate thing. Yeah, he could totally be absolutely just living life and just not
especially single.
Or they're just haven't found what works for them. That's better than somebody who goes and marries somebody and settles for something that isn't right for them.
Right.
So one has nothing to do with the other, but you can tell based on how active people are on social media and people who are giving said advice, because we've all followed them on Twitter. We've all followed them on Instagram. We've all seen them on Facebook. Their advice is out there for public consumption. And a lot of that advice is about finding the perfect person and getting married. So those are the people that we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you.
We talked a lot about like date because it's fun. Date because you do want to meet somebody and have a connection with them, whether it's a long-term relationship or a marriage or just a fabulous freaking friend that you can go hang out with in the future. It's like that's all okay.
Yeah, and also, I mean, if you're learning from your mistake, and that's something Marrie and I reiterated all the time, is learn from your experience. Okay, you made that mistake. That's okay. Move on. But those aren't the people who are posting all the time, The people who are learning and moving forward, in a healthy way are not typically the people who are telling everybody about what happened. And, I was that person at one point, and I'll admit it. And I wasn't moving forward in a healthy way. It was only when I started realizing who I was and what I was doing and why I was choosing the people I was choosing that I actually was healthy enough to meet my current husband and have a healthy relationship. And a lot of these people, maybe they want a healthy relationship, but until they actually deal with whatever they need to deal with and also learn from their mistakes, they're not going to move forward. And they'll just stay in the cycle. And they'll be perpetually single. And, and that's where the problem lies, I think, with a lot of these people.
Yep.
I don't mind taking advice from people. I mean, I guess my circle is small enough to where the people I go to for advice they're going to be brutally honest with me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But what I have noticed though, is the people that don't. I'm a people watcher, so I observe. I will sit back on my Facebook page or everybody else's Facebook page and just look and look and look. You can tell the people who you don't want to take advice from. You look at their profile, look at their pages twice a year, Christmas and Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Matching pajamas.
If you see a bunch of blah blah, I'm gonna be just living for myself. I'm gonna move in silence and blah 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 on February 14th and December 25th. Problem. Those people I don't ask advice for, because obviously those specific days mean those are real tough for them. So yeah. So I mean, but yeah, if your circle is small, then those people have seen you at your worst, seen you at your best. So I'm okay if I say, man, what do I do?
Yeah.
But like, just like we're looking for on the TV show, Married at First Sight, we will pause the video sometimes and I say, babe, so what do you think about this? And I'll ask her, say, was I like that when we first got married? She's like, no, yes, or whatever. So I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, because it was kind of like a State of the Union address, kind of like, how am I going so far? But
oh man, those conversations are everything.
Remember, misery loves company.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. That is exactly right.
And they love, just like, and I think maybe it comes down to ego and just needing that ego stroked, right? And a lot of dating, that's what it is, really.
Yeah, it really is. All right, so one more question. Let's talk about the other side of things. The people who want help with their relationship and they do need to share, but they tend to keep it to themselves because they don't trust other people or think people will give them the best advice. Sharing relationship issues can be tough for some people because some people just don't want you to know what's going on with them. They feel like they may be embarrassed or ashamed, or it makes them look naive to have certain problems. So, Dr. Tiffany, is it important to have someone in your life that you can trust regarding relationships? And if not, I mean, talk about the advantages of having an unbiased person as a coach or counselor that can get you through it.
So I think it's definitely important. I think there's a healthy balance that comes along with that. So the first thing is, I think that when we're talking about from a non-clinical perspective, you need to have friends, a healthy support system. I'm not talking about the friends that you've known for 20 years necessarily, but I mean safe and supportive people who you can be vulnerable with, who are not going to judge you regardless of whatever decision you make. Now, it was something that I'm not sure, as you guys were talking, we were talking about not telling people your relationship problems. I agree with that to a certain extent. When it comes to abuse, I do not believe that that's something you should keep a secret from anybody. Right. I don't think that that's something you should just say, well, this is our personal business. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm just going to keep people out of my business. No, if you are in a relationship where you are being abused in any capacity, you need to tell somebody, because there may come a time where you may have to say, well, yeah, I told my friend, I told my mom. So if something happens to you, somebody knows, like, well, yeah, she did tell me that she was being abused. So in that aspect, that's something I would not keep a secret. But yes, I do think your circle does not have to be big. That was one thing that I struggled with. And when I went through my whole Valley experience, was that there was a shame that I carried, was that I'm not supposed to feel like this. I'm not supposed to be going through this. I can't tell anybody. Well, there's an isolation that comes with that. And then there's an isolation that comes with that shame. And then that's not healthy for anybody, because when you take away all the degrees and licenses and titles and all that stuff, that don't keep me immune from difficulty. You know what I mean? I'm still a person and I still feel. And so what I learned from that is that if I have to experience anything like that again, I know who my tribe is. I know who my safe and my supportive people are, who I can go to. Now, you got to remember, your friends are not therapists. So if you get to a point where stuff starts to turn clinical, you're depressed, you can't function, you have some other symptoms going on, then that's when you need to go and see a professional. So definitely there needs to be a healthy balance between your friendships and when it crosses that boundary into going to see a professional.
And don't be scared to go see a professional either.
What's that?
And don't be scared to go see a professional either. I mean, they get paid, and whatever y'all get paid, to help people. So,
Right.
and again, and that's something, and this is a guy thing too. So look, I saw a counselor.
Yeah. I
So
saw a counselor. I
I
saw
had
a
to, man.
therapist.
Otherwise, I'd be doing the same thing. I had to go see someone to talk to someone
Yeah.
that would get that objective opinion.
Yep.
You know, that wasn't my friend, because sometimes your friends are good. They're going to be a little more hard on you. Sometimes you need to be at that point. We just need, okay, let's try this. You've gone down Avenue A. Let's try Avenue G and see where that goes. You know, hopefully it doesn't go to the same place and dish you to a different direction.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you got to talk to people, man. I mean, but my thing is, as far as the people that don't want people to know their business, I agree with what Dr. Tiffany's saying. If it's going to harm you or someone else, I need you to speak up.
Yeah.
Right.
But if it's something like, you know, he leaves the toilet seat up, okay, I can't help you with it.
Okay. Right.
You know, so you might want to tell him to put it down, or do, you know, and I'm not saying be passive aggressive, like leave something else, like leave the cabinet doors open or something like that, you know, whatever. But I mean, it's just, you know, if it's not involving the harming of a human body or a human person, yeah, I get it. But if somebody's getting black eyes and cut up and stuff like that, I need you to talk to somebody. Call me, you know.
Yeah.
And we need that, because I think, and I'll add this and I'll stop. But I think the world we live in, we're taught it's this myth that you're supposed to do it by yourself. Be strong, stand up, get over it, do it yourself, put your dress on, go out. And that's just not the human condition. I think when we put pressure on people to just get over it like that, just get over stuff and move on, that's what sends people in that place of saying, I have to do it myself. I can't talk to anybody. I'm supposed to just get over this and not feel. And I think the more we normalize talking about this stuff and normalize the power of connection, of safe and supportive people, we'll get out of this myth that we're not supposed to reach out for help. I'm the first person that if I'm feeling away, I'm reaching out. I'm not holding anything in. I'm telling and I'm talking. And I encourage other people to do the same thing.
Exactly.
All right. Wow, you all are good. I should have brought some popcorn. Okay, you know, when I sat down and started planning this show a few weeks ago, I jotted down so many notes, and by the time I was done, what I put together would have probably taken 2 or 3 hours. You know, I mean, there's so many aspects of managing relationships that is almost impossible to do it in just, you know, condense into just an hour. So there are plenty of things that still need to be discussed, and I'll save those for a later date, and I hope that you all don't mind returning in the future. But we'll go ahead and get to final thoughts on the evening, and we'll wrap things up. So let's go ahead and get the final thoughts. And where am I going to go first? I will start with Suzie. Give your final thoughts on the evening, please, ma'am.
Well, all I want to say is, you know, be true to yourself and just be happy on your own and let things come to you. Don't rush anything. Don't go quickly, you know, and a fire that burns too bright and too fast and too hot is not the way to go. It's going to fizzle out just as quickly. So look for those gems out there, because they are out there. There are good men and women out there. So just take your time and meet the right person, and you will, because, you know, love yourself first, and when you do, you'll find that love for sure.
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am. Always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.
I appreciate you joining. And next, I'll go to Dre. Dre, what you got for me, man? Your final thoughts, please.
Final thoughts, man. Take it slow. Sometimes you have to. Don't be you know, like it was said before, don't be in such a rush to get out there again, because, you know, results may vary, man. You know,
I like that.
Results may vary. Everything's not going to be, you're not going to have the same type of relationship that, you know, that these people have across the street or people on Facebook. I mean, look at J-Lo and A-Rod. Just saying, you know, so, but at the same time, you know, go slow if you need to, but just as long as you talk to the person and be, stay in communication. And then I love you, babe. I just want to tell my wife that.
Oh, that is so beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, I definitely want to wish her, both of you, a happy anniversary. I think that's
Thanks,
great.
man.
That's cool.
I think it's great. And I appreciate you joining the show.
Thanks.
And so, Dr. Tiffany, if I can get your final thoughts, please, ma'am.
Yes, absolutely. I'm actually writing down the names of the people who, because I don't want to miss that before we get off, the names of the people with the books. We had 3 winners tonight. So
right.
So my final thoughts are, it was so much, and I could say so much, but I don't want to take over. But my final thoughts are: do not ignore red flags. I think that when you are in a dating situation, if you can recognize what the red flags are, don't try to love the red flags out of people. See them for what they are. Set healthy boundaries and be done. That is something that can save you a lot of heartache and a lot of unnecessary pain in the end. The other thing is, you want to take some time to definitely reflect on the back end. The longer that you stay away from something, don't just rush back into it. Stay away from it for a little while, and then you'll start to actually see and pick up on the things that you missed. And then you'll be able to kind of go back in it with a healthier headspace. So don't ignore red flags. Don't try to love the red flags out of people. Do not ignore abuse. Tell somebody about it. Do not be quiet about it. Those are my final thoughts, Q.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming back on.
Thank you.
All right. Marrie, shut it down for me, please, man.
First, I want to say thank you very much, Q, for inviting us back. It was lovely to share the screen with you again and the mic. And it was great to meet new friends and new colleagues. And I admire all of you and really enjoyed being on the show with all of you. In terms of the final thoughts, I think that not to follow up on what everybody said is the other thing I'd like to add is, don't pigeonhole yourself into a type that you are and a type that you're looking for. Constantly evolve, constantly work on yourself, constantly grow, but that foundational you is always going to be there. Mm-hmm. And to just be open to the people that you meet. And if they don't look like Brad Pitt and you're looking for a Brad Pitt, or, it's okay. It's really okay, because you're probably not Jennifer Aniston. I'm just saying. So it's okay for you to remain open-minded, and it's okay for you to evolve, and it's okay for you to change. And that means it's okay for you to let go of the type and to be open. And if nothing else, you'll have a new friend, and you'll have somebody else that you can come to at a later date and get advice from. I know that sounds like a cliche, but the fact that, it's not going to work out romantically, maybe we could be friends. It's actually not a cliche. It actually is freaking awesome when that does work out, when that genuinely works out. And that's usually before you've taken things too far. So, but I just want to say, don't get stuck in type, whether it's your type or the type that somebody else needs to be. And love you all.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And this was great. This was really great. And
awesome.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Talk to Q Radio Show. Wherever you are watching or listening to this, please hit follow, subscribe, share, or something. The show is entirely listener supported, and the show cannot do well without your help. Nothing beats word of mouth. So, talktoq.com, Google Talk to Q, whatever you need to do. And I hope that everyone enjoys the rest of their evening, the rest of their week. And peace out, and I will catch you next time. All right? And if you all can hang backstage with me for a bit. All right.